Does your business qualify to operate under a 508c1a private trust? This is one of the most common questions I get. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to qualify under this trust. And the answer may surprise you when it comes to your business. In our community, Bulletproof Retirement, there are literally dozens and dozens of different examples of people from all different types of businesses, all different types of walks of life successfully executing this trust. And in my years as a financial services advisor, I've literally seen people in hundreds of different business categories successfully use this trust on a daily basis. So the first thing to go over with this trust is that it's not meant to hide illicit or illegal activity. Part of what you're agreeing to by starting this trust is to follow the common law of Jesus Christ, meaning we love our brothers and sisters and treat them as we would want to be treated. So very simply, if you're the type of business owner that believes in that, you want to do good business, you want to do right and serve your clients, you don't want to harm anyone, then might be the path for you. If you're the type of person that is committing illegal activity, if you're trafficking arms or children, or just doing violent, bad things in the world, then this is definitely not the path for you. So with the fairly obvious out of the way, when we dive in deeper as to how to create or how to run a business that qualifies, the second aspect that I would go into is, as far as the nature of your business, is it mission driven? Are you serving God, or are you doing it for yourself and your own enrichment? A lot of people, when it comes to the way their business is structured, they have various different entanglements with the public world. And you have to let those public entanglements go in order to truly run the business under a private trust, meaning there's no entanglements with the government, and therefore you can get to a point where you are not creating any tax liability whatsoever. So what does it mean to be a mission-driven servant of God? Well, the first thing is, we don't talk about trust in terms of ownership and equity like you do in almost all other types of businesses. And that's what the Matrix kind of traps us into believing and doing, is just enriching ourselves and becoming millionaires and billionaires and building up this big ego in this life, when the reality is we're only here walking this earth by the grace of God. So it's only by giving everything up, back to God and serving God, that we can truly become free of this reality. So if you have equity and you're looking to create some fund with all these different investors and things like that, then this trust isn't for you. This is meant for one trustee, maybe a small board of trustees, and they run them as co-trustees who control the assets of the business and the cash flow of the business. They don't deal in terms of equity anymore. They're working cooperatively together to run that business enterprise in a mission-driven way for God on behalf of their beneficiaries. That's a very different paradigm. There's different rules. Every aspect of doing that psychologically is different, because now you're encouraged to think about, the future of those beneficiaries, rather than just, getting some equity ownership and building up, this big important asset, right, that you own. And so the other final aspect is, when it comes to letting go of those public ties, another big thing that I see that stops people is employees. If you employ someone, that definition by nature is a public relationship where it requires certain contracts and certain reporting that drags the business into the public realm. So in order to be truly private, you have to switch to a model where you're having contractors work on behalf of your trust, and those contractors are independent. So they're not W-2 salaried, they just get paid a fee for their service to your trust. It's fine for private trust to have people that serve the trust as, agents of that trust, but the relationship contractually can't be one that has these, W-2 or any kind of letters and numbers that the IRS designates. It has to all be private relationships with the contractors that work for you, and private contracts and relationships with the clients that you do business with. That's how they're protected constitutionally and kept private. So, if you're considering whether to go down this path with your particular business, I've seen businesses in almost every single category work. We're talking like contractors, tradesmen, construction, financial services, real estate, food, you name it. Just all businesses across almost every single different category. What stops people is not really whether their business could qualify, it's whether they want it to qualify. Because you have to take certain steps psychologically, certain steps with the paperwork, certain steps with the people that you work with to run the business. And a lot of people, they just don't want to take those steps. They'd rather stay a slave, they'd rather pay taxes, they'd rather file forms, they'd rather just jump through all these hoops and just stay where they are because it's safer. Even though they could get it all audited at any time, bad shit can happen at any time in that paradigm. But still, the actual momentum behind change is very difficult to muster, particularly when everyone around you will tell you not to do this. So the people that I find that do move forward with this, they're very entrepreneurial in nature. They tend to have a certain risk-taking mentality because we all have to explore risks in life to get anywhere. If you're just going to stay and play it safe and do what everyone else is doing, yeah, this is definitely not for you. But if you're willing to psychologically push your limits and explore something different on the edges of this reality, there is a trail of abundant proof, and if you join the community linked below, you're going to find that, because there's plenty of people that are willing to share their experiences of actually doing it day by day. And as you go deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole, that's what we try and do in our community, is just stack up that proof so that you can start to get your psychology behind this strategy, and then one step at a time, move the pieces in play in your business to make sure that it qualifies. So I can almost promise you, whatever business you're doing, you can qualify with this trust. But there are certain steps that need to be taken. And, if you want to learn those steps, jump in the community. I look forward to speaking with many of you and seeing many of you on this path. And for the rest of you, good luck in the paradigm of ownership in the matrix. It's a tough one. You're going to have a lot of rules, a lot of constraints around what you do. And even though it may seem safer to stay with the crowd, the world is changing in such a way where those decisions are going to come back to bite you if you don't take the right preparation.